Alright, parts have been cleaned. As you can see, I got a bunch of clean parts here on the counter, on the bench. Let's talk parts. Look at all the dirt that's in here. See if I can do this one-handed without dropping my camera. Drum looks okay, not damaged. Yeehaw! So this is the original crank that was in it, and this was the crank that came out of that case that I was convinced was cracked. I'm going to opt out of using the OEM one, the one that came out of the case, for this one. I just don't like the way the bearings sound. That and the brass gear here in the middle's got a little bit of damage. So I'll take you down here and show you what I don't like. So I've cleaned these both up. They both had a bath in the solvent tank, and they've both been lubed. I put some two-stroke lube on there. So this one sounds okay. Hear that? Doesn't sound too bad. This one I don't like. Hear that? When you get on the throttle, you're going to hear that. So that's the OE, the one that came out of it, and this is the other one here. You can't hear anything. That. So both of these have been cleaned the same fashion, and both have been lubed in the same fashion with some, some two-stroke oil. And just these crank bearings, I don't like that. I don't like that sound. And this has got the same lube, the same amount in the same spot, and you can't hear anything. That's what you want. Okay, so I'm gonna put you in the stand there, and we'll get to dropping the crank in the case. Yeah, I should probably show that brass gear too. So there's that brass gear. If you look at it, it doesn't look so good. It's had some heat in it and some crusties. And then this is the other one. She looks brand new. So yeah, that's another reason why I'm gonna opt out in using this one and put that one in there. Okay, so if you ever do this job, you have to put it in the upper case first, because there's little pardon me, there's little locating dowels here which locate on the crank bearings, all four crank bearings, kind of like a Volkswagen. So if you were to put the case together and have these not located properly and you bolt it together, you'll actually smash the main bearings. Okay, so make sure these guys are in there right. That one's right, that one is wrong. So now here's the fun job, getting those locating locators all in the right orientation, which would be down. All right. And the rods have to go down. And this should just drop into place. Yeah, and actually if you look at the bearings, there's actually a pin or a marker that points straight up. And that's how you know when you have them located properly. Now that one's in. That one's in. And that one's in. So that one dropped down. And then that guy's way off. And then that guy should be just fall into place. There we go. So now before we go any further, I want to put the crank seals on. I just wanted to locate the crank and have all the main bearings lined up. Then we can pop the end up and we can slide on the main seals. Here's a couple brand new main seals. It should go without saying, but don't ever put seals in dry unless the manufacturer recommends it. You put these seals in dry, you'll wipe the seal out in 30 seconds. Probably even less than 30 seconds. All right. So that guy went in there. It's located. Located. It's located. Okay. Located. Now the other seal. A little bit of lube on that seal. And then this guy goes on here. Just pop it up just a little bit. Get that seal on there. There we go. Alright. So this engine also has a seal protector. So this is the PTO side. This is where your primary clutch goes. There's this rubber ring. This rubber ring here protects the seal from, I don't know, an exploding clutch, belt debris, all of the above. So this guy goes in there like that, and it just protects that outer edge of the seal. Okay, so now I'll make sure, double check that these are located. Located, yep. All right. So now we got to get our sealer. This is a machine surface. These are machine surfaces, but I like to put, it's called Moto Seal. It's an anaerobic. It's kind of like Yama Bond or Honda Bond. It dries in the absence of air, and it's got to be oil friendly. Some people like to use Permatex Ultra Black. I do not like using silicone because once silicone is dry, it hardens and it could end up inside here. It can plug a port or it can plug off an oil galley. I don't ever recommend silicone. You want to use an anaerobic. You want to use a gas resistant anaerobic. So this is the stuff I use here. Moto Seal. I get it because it's, you know, fairly inexpensive. Oh, I don't know if you can see that, but if you read it, oh, that's quite the glare. What the heck's going on there? Shadow, maybe? Ah, there we go. Put my arm in the right spot. If you read it, it says resistant to automotive fuels, ideal for case halves, so it'll be perfect for this. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper. This stuff is a heck of a lot cheaper than like Honda Bond or Yama Bond, if you can even get Yama Bond. It seems like our dealership here in town likes to use Permatex, the right stuff. But it's still a silicone. I don't like silicone. So clean and dry is the name of this game. Clean and dry. And I don't actually put any on the seal themselves. I'll put that on after. I do put it in the corners of the seals and the edges of the bearing. And I do a little bit of this, mix her up a bit before cracking her open. But it will explode everywhere. This stuff smells like Honda Bond or Yama Bond. Yeah, it even looks like it too. So remember, these are machine surfaces. So a little dab will do ya. Yes, I do it on the other side here. Because this is a coolant plastic here. This is all coolant plastic in there. Okay, that's what's up there. So I only put it on 1/2 because it's a machine surface. It's going to be wiped off pretty quick. Take a little bit of oil and put a little bit of oil on this brass gear. Put a little bit of oil on the mating gear. I'm just going to slide the baby home, as you can see. I kind of jumped ahead. I put the oil pump on there, put the shaft in. So this is going to go down, not super easy, but not super tough. It does have locating dowels. But it shouldn't take any force at all, aside from getting it started on the dowels. Just like that. That is it. Just like that. All right. Now my genius, I forgot to prep all the bolts, so you know, it's not the end of the world. I mean, this stuff it's not going to dry, right? It dries in the absence of air. But yeah, I'm going to go prep some bolts, clean them off, get them all ready. Okay, I got my hardware all cleaned up. You can agree or disagree with this part, but I'm going to put a little bit of lube on the threads. I don't like galling threads. Galling is where you take a bit of metal from one thread and put it on the other. So I mean, just a little dabble do you. So I don't like the possibility of wrecking a case, because remember, these cases, they're not cheap. You're probably looking at $2,500 for a case if you can get one. I don't even know if there's anything available in the aftermarket for a case half. Hey. Alright, what the hell? I'm 1 bolt short. How did that happen? Huh. That's a good thing I got 2 cases to steal parts from. This guy here. Huh. How the heck did I lose one? That is very strange. Okay. I have to hunt down a bolt. Bolt has been successfully hunted down. A little bit of juice. Drop it down there. Get my zippy zappy gun. Alright, so I use my gun just to snug the bolts down. I don't actually torque them with this. So a torque sequence, I don't know. I don't even know if there is one. There probably is one. Obviously there's one. Duh. Start from the outside, or start from the inside and work your way in. Start from the inside and work your way out in a spiral pattern. Holy man, that was hard to get out. I'm just gonna snug these up. I'm just gonna sneak up on the torque, which I believe, I have to double check and look it up, I believe is 35 foot-pounds. Sneaking up on it, of course. Something happened to a buddy of mine. He did a build on one of these. I think it was it wasn't a Sea-Doo. No, it was I think it was a snowmobile engine. And he didn't really know about torquing, and he just tightened these up as much as he could get them. Well, the problem with that is he actually deformed the case halves and put a gap in the case. And a 2-stroke uses that crank pressure, that pulse, that piston going up and down, so his engine wouldn't run, and he couldn't figure it out until I took it apart, put a straight edge on it, and it was not straight. Not by any means, anyways. I'm gonna look up the torque. I believe it's 35 foot-pounds. But, you know, be smart. Generally, I don't even use a torque wrench and torque things, but if more people keep watching my YouTube channel, which I know they will, which is actually pretty cool. Thank you everybody for watching. There's going to be, you know, torque freaks out there. Oh, you gotta make sure it's torqued. Why? Be smart about it. Okay, grab my torque wrench. Okay, 35 foot-pounds. I'm gonna take the extension off. So use your noggin. Feel for it. Feel what it feels like. If it feels like it's gonna strip or break, stop what you're doing. Try again. I'm actually gonna pick the case up here. Yeah, and at regular intervals, you should turn and make sure that everything still turns. Just like if you're building any kind of engine, make sure things still turn. Sounds good. Bearings could probably use a little more lube, but take it off with the cans. Stand her up like this. Just give me a little more leverage. I'm torquing this up. All right. You see what I'm doing, or yeah, probably not. Sneaking up on it. I'm not going to go hog wild on one. That's some good camera work. You're not going to see any of this. Okay. It still turns. Good. There's one. Two. All right, so now I'm just going to go along here and double check. Make sure these are all torqued. Ah, I just noticed something. This actually gives you a torque sequence on the bottom of the case. Hey, good on you, Suzuki, for that. Kind of like that. All right, so there's our short block, but if you look, so if you really don't know, it actually gives you numbers. So there's 1. There's 2, 3, 4. There's 5. Probably one of these, because then that goes 6, 7, 8. Oh, 5 is right there. So you see that? That's actually pretty cool. So just in case you've never done it before, there's actually numbers on there. I like that. Good on you, Suzuki. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, right on. Right arm. Right arm. Oh, yeah. Very nice. So, what I like to do, little added insurance when I build one of these, I will take, now remember this thing's going to smoke like a son of a gun, but you want everything to seat properly, you want everything to be in decent shape, you want everything feeling good, so I'm actually going to put a little bit of oil down inside these oiling holes. So when you think about one of these engines running, okay, you think about where the charge, the air-fuel charge, actually comes in under here. That's where your carbs or your throttle bodies go. The air charge comes into here, and think of it like a mist, and it gets stuck to the walls, right? And then it'll accumulate, and it'll roll down the wall. Think of like taking a shower, right? And the steam accumulates on the shower door, and then it starts to run down. It'll run down and it'll end up in these cavities. Well, these cavities go right down to the main bearings. So this one here would feed oil to the seal in the main bearing, main bearing, main bearing, crank, crank. And I believe, setting this up right, there actually should be a hole down there. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it. There should be a hole that feeds right into that main bearing. So you can always tell if you've done things up and lined things up properly. If you fill that cavity up with oil, that cavity should slowly drain. If you look down there, that cavity's slowly draining and it's gone. That means you've got things lined up properly. A little bit into there. You know, this is the time where I always like to say a little dab will do ya. The more the merrier when it comes to this. Yeah, it's gonna smoke like a son of a bitch, but things will seat right, and it'll be in pretty good shape. All right. Okay, so there's our short block altogether. We are going to reuse that jug and that piston there. I'm just going to clean it up. Probably take the rings off the piston, clean the grooves out, clean the carbon off. Something else I noticed here on this piston too, which I'm not such a fan of, and I think it could have led to some of these issues. I was looking at this again. Okay, just look at that piston. And you see how it's light colored here and dark colored in the middle? That tells you that the mixture in this was super lean, because a couple years ago I had a sled and I didn't change the gas in it, and I fired it up and it exploded, and I ended up with this. This is my Rotax 670. These were brand new pistons. I'm sort of leaning to the fact that this engine was done out pretty nicely. And if you look at it, you see the coloration on that and the coloration on that. I mean, this was getting close. I was getting close. I mean, not as destructive as that. I mean, I lost a piece of the piston, and I got lucky with the dome. The dome didn't get all chewed up, but that's what happens when you get your mixture wrong. And that's what happens when you don't get your mixture right. Duh. Okay. So I think I'm gonna make a bunch of little videos. Just put them all together and make one big one. But I want to spin this, and you can have a listen to this. See? Can't hear any bearings moaning and groaning. No noise. All you can hear is that oil in there. It's not tight. It doesn't have any hard spots. Our torque worked out great. Everything feels awesome. There we go. Now I'm going to bring you over to the other case half. I threw the crank in and put some bolts in, and we can have a listen to that one. Alright, so I threw the crank. So this is the OG crank, and this is the case that I thought was somewhat cracked. So I'm going to do the same thing. I already pre-oiled the crank. I'm going to pre-oil these main bearings, and I'm going to give this a spin. Okay, now listen to this. Hear that? That is why I did not want to use this crank. That tells me that bearing is on the way out. And if you were to use this bearing and get this engine running, there's no telling in how long that bearing is going to last. And if that bearing seizes up, you could be in a world of hurt. Excuse me. Jesus, I had a cough forever. I can't beat it. Frickin' cold or COVID or whatever the hell I had. Alright, so that's why I'm not using that crank. There. So I'm going to get cleaning the jug and the piston and getting that one back on, and then I'm waiting for Brad to bring me the other jug with the piston or whatever he decides to do with it. But this is where we're at now. So I want to show you this too. This is why I like this Sport Bond or whatever the heck this stuff is called. See this on here, on the case here? You can just go along and you can wipe this stuff off. Because as anaerobic, it dries in the absence of air. So it's nice, easy cleanup. So you don't have these big splotch lines of this stuff squeezing out. Nice and clean. Right. And you remember, the more of this stuff you put on there, the more it's going to squish out and the more of a mess you have on your hands. The more crap you got to clean up. So then we'll listen to this one again. Doesn't make that noise. Not at all. Yeah, a couple days later, skipped ahead a bit, did a bit more on it, got the water pump on, thermostat, just little things, put the throttle bodies back on, put the reed valves, just little things. We're gonna do, I'm gonna check out this cylinder and rings for wear. I think these are actually, I think this jug and this piston was fairly new as to what Brad was saying. So I've got my calipers. I'm going to measure the piston, or measure the cylinder, and the go-to, the basic, you know, the basic ring gap is 0.04 of an inch per inch of bore. I'm just going to check and make sure we're within that. I don't know what it is for this machine, and it was running great with that ring gap and nothing really exploded. I just want to check and double check and make sure that we have enough clearance. So when he does get it running, it's not going to blow up on him. So I zeroed out my calipers. 0. We're going to check how wide it is. So we got 3.37. So we'll just say, 3.5, 3.35. We'll just use that as a ballpark number. So, come down here to the calculator. I'm going to clear that. So we need 0.004 times 3.350 equals. So we should have at least a 13 thousandths ring gap, at least, minimum, for normal NA operations. When you get into boosted applications, it gets quite wide because you create quite a bit more heat. So let's see here, 13 mil, or not 13 mil, 13 thousandths, and I'm going to check and see how much gap we have here. That's pretty good. A little bit wider than that. Let's just check and see what it actually is. And I'm thinking, you know, being this machine is probably, the demand is probably a little bit more. We're probably closer to the neighborhood of, you know, 20 to 21 thousandths. So we'll go for 22. I'm hoping these rings aren't worn out too. Okay, 22 does not fit. That's good. Let's see what the clearances actually are. We'll go up to 16. 16 thou. 16 fits. 17, getting a little tight. 18. 18 fits. Here's a 19. That's a little bit. It's a little snug. And then 20. I think it's right around a 20. 20 just barely makes it in there. Makes it in there and snug. So this ring, this is the top ring, this ring is set at 20 thousandths, which is acceptable, especially for a snowmobile. So I'm going to take the other ring and get it started. without marring it up. Get down. I'm gonna take the piston and I'm gonna even it out in the jug. Like that. So this is your second ring. So a lot of times the first ring will be a little bit tighter than the second ring because your first ring is going to be your main compression ring and the second one will be a little bit looser. So that's exactly the same as the top ring. Excellent. So these rings are in good shape. None of the chrome has been knocked off of it. So I am going to hang the piston and put it back on this engine. Piston is actually in really good shape. There's no scratches. I mean, there's like this here. This is all like, it looks bad, but you can't actually feel that. And there was no piston slap. There's no rattle. The ring lands have been all cleaned out. So I'm going to hang this piston on there. Dot goes towards the exhaust. Exhaust goes up. See what I'm doing over there? Yeah, you can. Just like that. If you have to beat on it with a hammer, you did something wrong. Don't ever force a wrist pin in. My least favorite job, putting the circlip in. And it's in. All right. Oh, did I put it in upside down? Oh, you doughhead. Duh. Total frickin' rookie move. Put the frickin' ring in upside down. Yep, totally did that. I didn't do that. Oh, I don't know if you could see. Maybe I'll show you what just happened. I don't know if you could see, but if you look down that ring, come on camera, focus. You look down that ring, you see how it's flat on one side and tapered on the other? Taper part goes up. So when you have compression gases, they go down, they push against that, they push in, and they go into the ring land in the piston, and they actually push the piston ring, push more pressure against the cylinder wall. Both these rings are exactly the same, but I'm going to put them back in the same orientation. So that's what you just saw, and the piston has a matching taper in it. You know, for every chance it's got. And if you don't have one of these ring compressors, get one. I hate rolling rings on. Now, there we go. Now that's nice in there. That's nice in there, yeah. Okay. Next ring. And really, truly, if you don't know, the ring will have a marking on it. Right there where my thumb is. I don't know if you can see, but there's an R stamped on there. It could mean, I don't know. I had no idea what that, it could mean. Righteous way to go, man. Yeah, bro. I don't know. All right. Those are in there. Those are in there. So now we get the gasket. Grab the gasket. A lot of times these gaskets are, it doesn't matter which way. Base gasket, not totally important. Head gasket, yes, important. Base gasket, not really. You really can't put it on any other way. But I'll put it on like this. Alright. Time for the jug. The jug. The jug. Oh, a little more lube. Remember, you can't overdo it. You can't really truly overdo it, because you want to give this engine a fighting chance when it first starts up. So if that means a bit of lube, that means a bit of lube. Alright, before I put that on, I also should oil up the rings. Give them a fighting chance to reseat properly. And the rings have pins. And the ring end gaps have to be in those pins, or the ring will turn and catch a port and tear itself apart. Okay. I think at this point I'm just talking to myself, right? Yeah. Okay. So there's the fun part. Without dropping the jug, I squeeze them together and we push it down. Now, just like everything else, if you have to force it, stop, because there's something wrong. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. God, it's like I've done that before, huh? Sweet. Yeah, baby. So like I do everything else, I bag and tag everything, every bolt, every nut. I actually have a container down there on the floor. See that round one? That's got all my plastic bags in it, and I reuse them every time I tear an engine apart. And these bags are, what, Ziploc bags are quite cheap for what we do with them. You can reuse them as long as you're not ripping them apart. I like fairly decent bags. I mean, I've used dollar store bags and they rip and then they're no good. Then you lose bolts. Alright. So these get torqued to the same as the case nuts. And really, torque is dependent on the size of the bolt, the size of the threads, what type of threads, the type of bolt. You really, really don't want to go hog wild on these. I've seen it before where a guy over torqued one of these studs with one of these and actually physically pulled the stud out of the case. Alright. Is that the right size? No. Get the right size and snug them down. just like the case. Round and round. Don't be tightening up one right in one shot. Back and forth. And for torque wrench. 35 foot-pounds. Like before, sneak up on it. Corner to corner. There's one. Two. It's three. And that's done. Can't do anything. Oh, it's four. All right. Right on. So I can't go any further on this project. I can't put anything else together until he gets me another piston and a jug. So I'm ending this one here. I was tempted to put it in the engine like this, or in the chassis like this. I'm not going to do it like that. I am going to not do it that way. I want to put it all together and then put it all in there in one shot. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it. I love the views. I'm up at 150, what was it, 152, I think I checked the other day. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thumbs up, baby. Thank you. Bye-bye.